I baked 4 sourdough loaves of bread this morning, and I did them all a little bit differently, but they all came from one giant loaf and I just divided it up into 4. So I baked them at different times and temperature. Here's how they turned out. This is more of a casual setting. I don't have everything set up. I just wanted to hit record and to share with you what I tested and what I learned. I've been feeling a little bit under the weather the past few days, so I thought some warm soup with a sourdough bread bowl would be perfect. I don't think that these bread loaves are big enough for a bowl, but either way, they were still a lot of fun to test and experiment with, and I learned something along the way, which is always something that I strive for when it comes to cooking and baking.
Yesterday I made my sourdough. Bulk fermented until jiggly. I divided my large dough into fourths, shaped them, placed them in bannetons, and put them in my fridge overnight.
This morning I woke up and I baked them at all different times, and I'm going to talk about the different time frames and how I baked them in this video. Before I baked any of my loaves, I preheated my oven to 500 degrees with my Dutch oven in the oven.
The top 5 things that I look for when baking sourdough bread is first the coloring, second are the blisters, third is the ear, 4 is the bottom of the bread, and the 5th thing is the exterior, the crust.
This is my first loaf. I baked it at 500 degrees for 20 minutes with the lid on. And then I took the lid off and baked it at another 20 minutes at 450 degrees. I ended up doing this small loaf the same temperature that I do all of my other loaves, and it turned out not so great. I wouldn't grade this at a high grading. And the reason for it is because of these few things. First, I look for the coloring. This is definitely on the burnt side. It is not that beautiful golden color that I am striving for. The blisters on the side is the second thing I look for, and this has a beautiful amount of blisters, so that definitely wins a star there. The ear is beautiful. It eared perfectly. It has this perfect little ear here. And then the 4th thing is the bottom is definitely burned. So the burntness tells me that, ooh, I had this baking too hot for too long, and it is also hard. The 5th thing is the crunch test. It's just not moving. So overall, those 5 things tell me that this loaf is not the best loaf that I've ever baked. So the second loaf, I decided, all right, this needs to bake for less time. So I ended up doing the same temperature as I did loaf number 1, except I baked it at 15 minutes each half. So first half with the lid on, I baked for 500 degrees for 15 minutes, and then I removed the lid and I baked it for another 15 minutes at 450 degrees with the lid off. And honestly, I think that this loaf came out stunning, but let's look at the things that I look at. First, the coloring is this beautiful golden color on the outside. It is a mix between a dark color and a light colors, and so it has exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want to overcook my bread. I want it to be just the golden. I don't want it dark burnt looking. I don't want it undercooked. So this is the perfect gold that I look for, and so yeah, A+ there. The second thing is the blisters. Looking at all these blisters, there are stunning blisters all around the outside of this bread. She's perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. A+ there. The 4th thing is the bottom. It is on the darker side. I do think it could have been better, but this right here told me, I'm like, okay, maybe I left it in a little bit too long, or maybe it's too high of a temperature. But this is a little bit on the burnt side, so I would give this a B for sure. And my dog's gonna bark. I think it sounds hollow, so I think the sound is good. The 5th thing is the crunch test, like squeezing it. It's very soft on the outside, and it has that gorgeous sound to it when I squeeze it. And overall, that is the perfect sound. So aside from the bottom looking a little bit too dark, I would rate this an A even. Not A minus or A plus, but definitely an A. I think that this loaf came out perfect. I really like this one. The third loaf that I baked, it does feel a little bit heavier than the last one. For the third loaf, I ended up baking this at less time, and I kept the temperature at 400 degrees for both halves with the lid on and with the lid off. And I did that mainly because the bottom of loaf number 2, I thought, oh, maybe it's too hot. So I kept the 15-minute increment, and I kept the temperature 450 throughout the entire time of this loaf. The coloring is perfect. I think the coloring is spot on. I wouldn't change anything. I would say A+ on the coloring for loaf number 3. The blistering is also perfect. I wouldn't change anything about the blistering. The blistering is, there's so much of it, and it's just all around. I've kind of taken some videos and squeezed it a few times, but for the most part, this is beautiful blistering. The ear, so it does have an ear, and the ear is okay looking. The ear could definitely be a little bit bigger on this loaf.
In loaf number 2, you can see the ear is much higher, allowing for more rise.
And it, as you can see, like the sides, it didn't quite go all the way. It started cutting instead of just opening up from where I cut it. So maybe I didn't cut enough, or maybe I needed that extra temperature. So I don't know, but the bottom looks good. So the fourth thing is the bottom came out really nice. In fact, exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to baking bread. I think it's not burnt, it's perfect, and it sounds hollow. Yep. So the bottom, A+. Loved how the bottom came out. And as far as the crunch test, yes, crunch test is there. In fact, it feels softer than loaf number 2. Much softer, in fact. It's softer to touch, but it does feel, I would say that this is a great loaf. So overall, I really like the way this one came out. The fourth loaf has a little bit of a learning experience. So not only did I lower the temperature to 450 throughout the entire bake of this, but I did lower the time by about 4 minutes. Surprisingly, there is a 4-minute difference between these two loaves, but you can see how different they look. All right, so going through, the color is a beautiful golden. I think it's perfect, so I give that an A+. Gorgeous blistering. I would say, yeah, the blistering is the same on all of them. This is beautiful. I would actually venture to say that because loaf number 2 baked at hotter temperatures, you can see how it's a much darker. The blisters are a little bit more predominant in the higher temperatures, but nonetheless, the blisters are there. The ear, oh, it's definitely a C. You can see where she tried very little, but for the most part, didn't quite make the cut. Maybe it was my cut. Maybe my cut didn't, my scoring wasn't deep enough, but I really thought I tried to do it all the same. The ear is not great on this loaf. The bottom is perfect. I wouldn't change anything about the bottom. I think the bottom is great. It has beautiful coloring. It's not burned. It sounds hollow, so I think this is a good loaf. And as far as the squeezing test, it has less of a crunch than the others, but it feels much softer than the others by far. So I kind of like the softness of that a lot, actually. That, I don't know, I would probably give that an A-, but that's only because I like that. I like that it's softer on the outside. So this will be a fun one to eat. Overall, this wouldn't be the winner. Now that we've gone through all 4 loaves, I'm going to pick the winner. But before I do, put in the comment section which one you would consider the winner of these loaves. My winner is, drum roll, loaf number 2. Loaf number 2 just really came out on top for me. I love the coloring. I love everything about it. The ear, the blisters, the bottom is great. But of course, we have to cut into it in order for me to truly know what the crumb looks like in the inside. But on the outside, I think this is the winner for me. Let me know if you disagree or what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching this video. My name is Priscilla. This is King Your Kitchen. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this, and I will see you next time. And in the next video, I'm gonna cut into all of these. So you can't miss it. So hit the notification bell, and I'll see you there.